Welcome to this edition of Safety First. I'm your host, Tim Kelly. Very special show today. We're talking about Arson Awareness Week coming up in early May. And again, we have some special guests to help us talk about this topic. Joining us from the Virginia Beach Fire Department Fire Marshal's Office, an investigator there, we have Elena Cooper. And we also have Captain Chuck Chapin, who is the acting fire marshal for the city of Suffolk. Thank you both for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, this year for Arson Awareness Week, they have a very special theme. And again, Elena, that's why we have you today. And we're going to be introducing Sadie in just a little bit as well. But Chuck, if you could kind of kick us off and talk a little bit about Arson Awareness Week. What is the intent of the week? What is the objective, the mission, so to speak?
The mission of Arson Awareness Week is to educate the citizens and public in reference to arson. Last year it dealt with vehicle fires, and this year it deals with accelerant canines. And it just kind of gives an overview of what the different scenarios are in reference to, last year's vehicle fires, this year, what canines can do for us and how canines are so crucial during a fire investigation, and they're very utilized when it comes to doing an investigation.
Now, Elena, when we talk about accelerant detection canines, what are we talking about? So talk about you and Sadie and kind of the training and everything that goes into getting you and Sadie together and working toward where you can provide the services not only for Virginia Beach, but certainly here at the city of Suffolk and the surrounding areas.
Absolutely.
Okay, Sadie is, right now she's almost 2.5 years old. She's a little black English Labrador Retriever, and she is a ATF certified canine, alcohol, tobacco, firearms. Alcohol, tobacco, and firearms program, it's a 6-week course. Sadie and I went through 6 weeks of training last year. We graduated April 25th. Prior to Sadie and I going through that training, the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms training staff actually did the imprinting on the dogs. And the imprinting on the dogs pertains to training the dogs to detect ignitable liquids on fire scenes, open fields, vehicles, etc.
Now, when we talk about the type of dogs used here, their sense of smell is extremely delicate and intricate. If you could talk a little bit about the type of dogs that are typically used for this work and just their abilities just as canines.
Okay, well, for anybody out there that has Labrador Retrievers particularly, you probably already have figured out that they're very gluttonous. They love to eat. So the ATF's program with their accelerant canines, these canines are trained under the food reward methodology, which means the only time that Sadie will ever be fed is when she is actually worked to detect ignitable liquids. Whether that's a scene that we may get called out on that may be positive for the presence of ignitable liquids, or the test kit that I carry in my vehicle and I have to set the training up in order to feed her. And so they do love to eat, and they actually really get accustomed to when the handler puts the food pouch on, they know it's going to be time to eat and they're ready to go.
Now, what kind of situations, I know you talked briefly about it off the top, and Captain Chapin, I know we've had some incidents here where Sadie and other dogs have been utilized, but what kind of incidents are we talking about, and how does that work process go? There's an incident, a fire, again, arson may be suspected, you're called in. How does that process work once you arrive on scene? If you take us through that.
Okay, well, first of all, Sadie she's available on call 24/7, 365, really. Not just for the city of Virginia Beach or Suffolk, but for the entire Hampton Roads metropolitan area. So we're available for call anywhere. Also, the ATF can initiate a national response, if need be, anywhere in the United States, and could reach out and pull any of the dogs. So what normally happens is I'll get a phone call from the jurisdiction wanting to utilize the accelerant canine, and Sadie and I will show up at the scene and marry up with individuals like Chuck, and I'll go in and do a safety check on the actual, for example, if it's a structure fire, because obviously the dog's health and safety is my responsibility as a handler.
Of course.
So there may be times when I may have to make that decision, that I may only be able to work the dog in certain areas in and around that structure, and we'll do the best we can and work the dog and see if she detects or alerts on the presence potentially of ignitable liquids, or even better than that, to rule out the possibility of ignitable liquids with no alerts. So that's equally as important a tool.
How long of a time, I mean, obviously I guess every situation is different, because it depends upon the scene and kind of the structure or the situation you're in, but what are we talking about time frame wise for Sadie to kind of pick up or determine yes or no, whether there's something used, the area? What's the time process typically for something like that?
Well, like you said, from the time we get on scene and do our safety check and you know, get up with the command officers, command staff, and the investigators in the particular jurisdiction, it could vary. Anywhere from you know, 20 to 30 minutes to maybe we might be on scene and have been on scene for a couple hours working the dog. So it just depends.
The main thing with that is when you talk about the use of the accelerant canine, it's a tool. And typically for us to do a typical arson or even just a fire investigation for that matter, it could take us hours into days to do a fire scene. And the data that has been generated shows that an accelerant canine can complete overall scene evaluation within 30 minutes. Normally, once they're allowed to go to work and the scene is deemed safe, they get in there and do what they need to do. And, you know, again, you can either rule out that there is the presence of ignitable liquids, or there may in fact be some. So it really, you know, it's a very time-saving tool. And again, I have to stress the fact that it's a tool. And we have utilized, you know, Elena and Sadie here in the city of Suffolk on a couple of incidents, and we had, you know, had a very good working relationship with them, and we're very appreciative that, you know, the city of Virginia Beach has allowed us to utilize her, and also, you know, the training and ATF's support of this program.
Definitely a great resource to have for the region, for sure. Now, when we talk about accelerant liquids or accelerants, what types of materials are we generally talking about? I mean, what are some of the types of things that Sadie knows that she can hit on?
Okay, I get a lot of questions regarding, you know, how many different types of liquids can Sadie alert on? And what it really comes down to is more the classes of liquids. And I'll give you an example. I could walk into, say, your hardware store, local hardware store, and I could pull a paint thinner off the shelf that's manufactured, you know, by a company, and then I could pull an odorless paint thinner off the shelf. And you would think, oh, you got a paint thinner here and you got an odorless paint thinner. Oh, those two must be medium petroleum distillates. And I reach out to our chemist in the lab and would have Brenda Christie test the liquid, and it may end up, one of them may end up being a medium petroleum distillate, and the other one may be what's called a medium isoparaffinic. And people say, well, that doesn't mean anything to me. Well, it doesn't to the common layperson. But for me and Sadie, she will pick up light, medium, heavy petroleum distillates and or ignitable liquids, naphthenic paraffinics, which you can find in some of your torch fuels or your bug sprays, and your medium isoparaffinics, which you would find, for instance, in the odorless paint thinners. So you can have lots of different flammable or ignitable liquids that may be used to set a fire, manufactured or under a different kind of trade name. And the key there is, you know, what the chemical makeup is and how it's actually analyzed at the lab.
And so that's one of the key things as well is, again, going back to that tool. Once we have a positive hit and the dog alerts to that, and she notifies, you know, the handler that there's something here that sparks my interest. What we'll do is we'll take a sample of that area and then we'll ship it off to the state lab. They'll go through and have their trace people do, the actual chemist will do the tests on it and run to see if in fact there was the presence of ignitable liquid. So it's not the dog alerts to it, that's automatically a given that it's arson, there's ignitable liquids here, we're going to go, you know, arrest somebody for it. There's a lot more that has to take place in order to make that happen.
Got it. Now, over the course, you said you and Sadie had graduated and started working together about a year ago, correct?
Correct.
In that period of time, approximately how many times have y'all been called out to scenes, ballpark? What do you think?
Probably by the 25th of this month, just about 50 scenes.
Really? Okay. And I mean, any commonalities there or anything that really stands out to you in y'all's time, you know, getting out into the field and working together and her success and just, again, you two working together in those incidents? Anything that stands out to you?
Well, I can tell you that as the year has gone on, I've gotten increasingly more proud of her. Matter of fact, the last couple of weeks, I've been hit with, I think, 5 already, just in 2 weeks alone, results coming back from 5 different fire scenes in 3 different cities that I've worked her on. And they've all come back positive for some sort of an ignitable liquid, so I'm really, really pleased with that.
Indeed.
Can't ask for much more than that.
No.
Right?
And I know earlier, you talked about her working and everything. We were able to do a little demonstration out behind where we are right now. Of course, we're coming to you from Fire Station 6 on Kings Fork Road, in case you can't identify where we are. But talk about kind of what that process was and what we saw during that time of the two of you kind of working together there.
Okay. Yeah. Actually, I had Sadie on a lead and worked her into the wind. That's, you know, if you can at all, and you got any wind, that's obviously what you want to try to do.
Sure.
So that that dog can maximize their olfactory senses. So you want to try to be able to give the dog an opportunity to get into that cone of odor. And I think you probably could see from the demo, it didn't take me very long after I gave her the command to seek. I let go of the lead because I wasn't going to be able to keep up with her. And when she found the source, she sat just what she's supposed to do. That was her alert. She didn't come off of it. She stayed. I went to her, rewarded her out of the food pouch. Then I gave her the command to show me, to be a little bit more specific in that area. And she actually did, and I rewarded her again. So she did just what she was trained to do.
Now, how much training, I mean, you know, obviously you graduate, you get started working, but the training doesn't ever end, does it?
It's an everyday thing.
Yeah.
What is unique about these accelerant canines and the program with the ATF, since these dogs are food reward, they're not like your normal patrol dogs where they are toy reward. So those dogs eat out of bowls, their normal meals, every day. With Sadie, unfortunately for her, she actually has to work every day and earn her food. So I have to set that training up and or incorporate it with any fire scenes that we may get on, and ask to go out and work in order for her to detect the ignitable liquids and be rewarded out of the food pouch. So that's the only way she'll be fed every single day of her working life.
So she's a big fan of you, in other words, right?
Well, I would think so.
And if you
By
look
now.
at her, if you look at her, she's not malnourished. I mean, she's
very
definitely
healthy.
eating.
Yes, yes.
So.
Yeah.
Now,
So-
talk about y'all's relationship. I mean, obviously you've worked with her for a year. How has that been, and how have you two maybe grown closer? I don't know how that relationship works with again, you use the word a tool. She's a resource, but she's still a dog, and obviously you're still the handler in that situation.
Well, absolutely. When I go out to a fire scene, I always have to keep in mind, number one, that Sadie's been called out, just like Chuck said, she's a tool.
Right.
She's not to take the place of the actual scene investigator or investigators.
Correct.
That's their job to ultimately determine the origin and cause of the fire. She's there basically to assist them with sample collection if we do have an arson-related fire. The relationship that Sadie and I have developed over the last 12 months has been an interesting one because I have two small pet dogs at home, and instantly when I brought her into the home, all three of them bonded.
Right.
I didn't think I was going to have a problem with that at all.
Sure.
But I did probably get a little stink eye, if I could say that, when I started to load Sadie up the first week after we got out of school, taking her to work every day because she goes to and from work with me every day. Of course, lives at home. So my two pet dogs, they didn't take too kindly to that. That things had changed, and they probably felt like initially they were taking a big back seat.
Right.
So there's a balancing act there.
Sure.
To be able to keep Sadie as the working dog and not overdo it and turn her into a pet.
Sure.
And still be able to give the love and care to my pet dogs. But some unique things you learn about your working dog. She doesn't sleep with me. That's kind of interesting. She religiously will get up in the bed with me and the two small dogs, and then about 11 o'clock or 11:30, down she goes.
Right.
She goes into the living room and sleeps on the couch. 5 a.m., she's up in my face. She's ready for her rawhide chew in the morning,
Right.
her one biscuit she gets for the entire next 24 hours, and 2 vitamins. And the day starts. So she gets to swim. That's the nice thing about living right up the street from the Chesapeake Bay.
Yeah.
I try to get her all the swimming she can get in every day of the week, and to keep her lean and to keep her healthy. So yeah, I love her. I'm blessed. I have to say, I love my dog.
Well, it definitely shows, and you can definitely tell it in your description there. Captain Chapin, just again, talk about as far as the type of resource that we have with Sadie and these type of dogs that work in this field, and really how it helps, again, just again, how it helps you do your job when you have a situation where an arson situation may exist.
Yeah, the major thing with that is being able to have that resource, to know that, it's a phone call away. And the command staff in Virginia Beach has given their undivided support of this program, and with limited manpower like everybody has within their investigation divisions, you're working a fire scene, and if it's a major fire scene with a large structure, it's not just you're utilizing 1 or 2 investigators.
Right.
There may be 3 or 4,
Sure.
Or you may need to call into the regional team, the trap team, to come out and help with it.
Right.
But having that extra set, because not only is Elena there as Sadie's handler, but she also is another set of eyes that we can utilize.
Right.
That all right, well, take a look at this, and what do you see? And it may be that she looks at it and sees it from a totally different perspective, and then all of us get together and talk about it,
right.
And we can come up with a true hypothesis, and then back that up with the facts leading up to, and hopefully if it was an arson case,
right.
be able to get that conviction when you go to court. And that's what it's all about. It's if you intentionally set a fire and we deem that you intentionally set it, that's our goal, is to put you away. And when we talk about Arson Awareness Week, I think back to the Brittany Lane incident that we had, mm-hmm. and the terroring that person did to those people on Brittany Lane.
Right.
He was given subsequently, I think, 40 plus years and had a lot of it reduced, but he's spending 17 years in prison, mm-hmm. for arson.
Right.
So I can truly say that when it comes to arson within the city of Suffolk, it's not taken lightly. And I think I can speak on behalf of all of the areas, in the Tidewater region, that arson's a very serious thing, and it's not going to be taken lightly.
Right.
And if you're found guilty, you will pay the price for it.
And I think that's the great thing about an awareness week like this one, where again we can talk about the resources, mm-hmm. and the work that folks like you do in this field to make sure, again, if a situation is a criminal incident. And again, I think that's one thing we don't realize sometimes, that the fire department and the fire marshal's office do have that law enforcement reach on those, mm-hmm. instances, because you're investigating it as a crime. And again, you think, well, you're just going to put the fire out and move. No. There's work to be done. There's resources to be used, and accelerant detection canines are certainly a key part in that. And Investigator Cooper and Captain Chapin here, of course, do their job to make sure, again, as you said, if there is a situation and someone is guilty of something, there is a penalty for that. And as you noted, those penalties can be very severe.
Very much.
Okay. Well, again, thank you both for joining us today.
Thank
you for bringing Sadie out here so we can meet her and see her in action, so to speak. And again, we have Arson Awareness Week, May 3rd through May 9th. Again, just something to bring it to your attention, but again, help you realize, I should say, the resources that are out there to help follow up on potential arson cases, and if there's a guilty party, certainly get that person, so to speak, punished, or get them before the judicial process, so they can be punished for those actions. So again, thank you both for joining us today. That will do it for this edition of Safety First. I'm Tim Kelly. We will see you next time.